everybody. Happy Sunday. We are live. I am Gina from Advantage College Planning, and I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk a little bit with you about resumes and why they're an important part of the application process, and really that part of the application process, we can start planning for that as early as ninth grade. And some people think I'm kind of crazy when I tell them that their ninth grader can start working on their resume. And they think, well, what could my 14-year-old possibly put on a resume? So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So we're going to be talking about the resumes and the role that they play in the college application process, and really what your student can be doing now, whether they're in 7th or 8th grade, or even maybe they're already a junior and it's not too late. That's okay. We are here for everyone. So we'll be talking about how to make the most of the resume, building that resume, why it's important, and really what colleges are looking for in students' resumes when they are applying to college. So if you have joined me for a Facebook Live before, welcome back. If you are new here, welcome. It's always great to have new people joining. So again, my name is Gina. I am here from Advantage College Planning. And if you want to just go ahead and put in the chat, let me know what year your students are, or if the students themselves are joining, that's also really fun. If you also would like to let me know where you're tuning in from, that would be really great. Advantage College Planning, and we is located here in the Raleigh, North Carolina triangle area, but we do also have franchisees in different parts of the country, all the way up from Maine, all the way down to Florida. So we span quite a large area. So I know you could be tuning in from just about anywhere. So I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what year your students are. Okay, great. Betsy is here and she's got a senior and a freshman. Ooh, you're at both ends of the spectrum, Betsy. That's exciting. Yeah, so it's helpful for me to know kind of where you are in the process so I can make sure that I'm addressing information that's specific to you and your students. Okay, awesome. Great. Ooh, Colorado. Very cool. All right. So as we go along, again, we'll be talking about the resume process and really what's going to help your students stand out in their application process when it comes to their resume. As we're going along, if you want to put questions in the chat, that would be great. Some of your questions I'll answer as we go along, and then some of them I'll just get to at the end. So if you have anything specific, be sure to let me know. But let's go ahead and get started. So ninth grade is really when that resume planning begins. And if you tuned in right away, right at 8 o'clock, if everything was loading, you might have heard me saying that sometimes my families think I'm a little bit crazy with telling them that their 14-year-old should be having a resume. And so the first thing we have to understand is that your ninth grader's resume is obviously not going to look like yours. It's going to be very different. And I understand that they probably don't have a lot of actual work experience or volunteer experience or anything to put on the resume. That's fine. That's not the point. But what we want to do is get them to start thinking about the resume and thinking about the activities in what they're involved in the same way that we put so much thought and so much focus and so much time on what are your grades? What does your transcript look like? Let me see your progress report, right? We're checking in on those, on that information, on that quantitative information constantly with our students throughout their schooling. And what I'm here to say tonight is that we really also need to be putting that same level of review and emphasis and planning and intention on their activities as well. And because when they ultimately get to the college application process, yes, we know that the quantitative data, the grades, potentially the test scores, that's extremely important, right? Students are going to college to take classes and get their degree. Yes, obviously. However, as college admissions has largely moved to a more holistic landscape, colleges are looking at much more than just the grades that students are earning in the classes that they're taking. Colleges are also looking at who are these students? What are their values? What is their character? What's their personality like? What's important to them? How are they spending their time? And also, what kind of community member are they going to be on our campus? And so one way that colleges can gain that information is from the more qualitative information that students are submitting, including their resumes, or on the Common Application, a specific section that is called the activity list. And so for this session, we'll be talking about resumes, but just know that once your students get to their senior year, we're using a lot of what's on the resume for their activity list. It all comes together. So back to your ninth graders. So there are three reasons why, my concrete reasons why all of my ninth graders start with me having a resume. First one is it's a place to record all of the accomplishments and activities that your student has been involved with or has received since essentially the summer before ninth grade. So that eighth grade to ninth grade summer still counts. So the summer before ninth grade. For the college application process, really anything before that summer before ninth grade becomes irrelevant. And I understand that you may have a student who has been doing an activity since they were 4. I see this a lot with soccer and piano. They've been doing this activity since they were a child, and they're now 17 doing that same activity. That is valid. That is significant. But on the resume, what the colleges really are wanting to look at is what have they been doing since they've become, really a teen. So that summer before. Once we get to the application process, a lot of times the students don't remember significant things that they did, which sounds crazy. And usually the parents remember, but the students don't always remember. And it's also sometimes hard to recall if if they've received an honor or an award. So whether that's academic or for volunteering hours or something along those lines. So if we're recording them as we go along in this one place on the resume, that makes our lives easier. Reason number 2 is the resume provides a visual representation of the student's activities. So we can start to create some accountability, some intentionality, some planning, just like we're doing with the transcript, right? I highly doubt that most of you would just say, oh, I don't know, the grades will work themselves out and we'll see what they look like in the end, when we're working on college applications in September of senior year. Said no parent ever. Right? But a lot of times we're doing that exact thing with our activity list. So we need to stop that. If we can start writing down intentionally, okay, this is what the student is involved in their time outside of school, starting as early as ninth grade, then we can identify patterns. We can identify what I call holes in the resume. So, if it looks like, oh, they are saying they're interested in X activity or they'd like to major in Y major, but they don't have any activity that relates to the things they're saying they're interested in, to me, that's a hole. Why aren't you prioritizing that as an activity? Helps us identify those things a little bit earlier. The third reason is because you never know when they're going to need a resume. So there could be some opportunity that comes up at the school for a specific club or an honors organization. I see this a lot with National Honor Society. They could have an opportunity to volunteer or maybe even get their first part-time job. And if they walk into that interview situation or they go in to talk to a manager at Harris Teeter to talk about getting a part-time job and they have a resume, they immediately look much more mature and responsible and like they've put some time and thought into this, right? So those are the reasons why we want to start as early as ninth grade. So now let's think about the type of information that students really should be including on their resume. So this on the top, it should be the basics. It'll look probably like yours and mine, right? We should have our name on the top. They should have their email address, maybe their phone number, because we know that they're probably not checking email, which is a whole nother conversation. But just, if someone wants to get in touch with them, what's the best way to get in touch with them? They also should include their education and the year that they are in school. So again, this prompts you to update it every year. So if you put down the name of the high school that they're in and then, current freshman or current sophomore, then every year you have to go back to update that. So it's a little reminder, a little check. So then in terms of what kind of activity can my student even put on here? So first, let's start with clubs, right? Clubs and student groups. That's one of the most common places that I see students have activities because they can join a wide range of different clubs at their school. Part-time work, whether that was in the summer or during the school year, would go on here. If your student is an athlete, any kind of sport would go on here. Arts like dance, theater, again, art. So if they are involved in any sort of art activities, volunteering, whether that was with you as part of your family, maybe your family, once a month goes and volunteers at a specific organization as just a routine that your family has, right? That's great. That counts. That's an activity that your student is doing. Church. I have a lot of students who are very involved with the places where they worship, whether they are doing youth groups or watching the younger students while the parents are doing some other activity, or even just setting up the chairs before services, things like that. Students also can include family responsibilities if they're significant. That again is showing a high level of responsibility. If your student is responsible for doing a certain amount of meal preparation and cooking for your family based on your family's schedules, maybe your teen is cooking dinner 2 nights a week, or maybe they're responsible for taking care of younger siblings after school. That would go on. Volunteering also can be things that they're doing for their neighbors. So I have a lot of students who pet sit or dog walk. I have students who help out their neighbors with lawn care and things like that. It's not a formal job, but that is an activity. And then the last would be any sort of significant hobby. I have a lot of students who just like photography, or I had a student, she's just finishing up her freshman year in college. Last year, she was applying and she spent so much time journaling, but her journaling was a very specific, very unique kind of journaling. And that was such a huge part of who she is as a person. And so if we didn't include that in her activity list, then you don't know her at all. Playing the guitar, things like that. All of those are significant activities. So anything really that your student is doing when they are not in class that is significant, that should go on the resume. So then once we started listing out, okay, these are the different categories of activities that you do, the next piece that I have all of my students focus on is how they add value. I say to my students, what is your value add in this classroom? What is your value add in this group? So often, if I ask students, so tell me what you do with Key Club, tell me what you do, at band practice, they often respond with a we statement as what the whole club does. Well, we volunteer and we do these activities and we play at these concerts. Okay, that's not what we're going for. We're not writing up a description in a catalog of what this group does. The person who's reading the student's resume or ultimately is reading their application wants to know, what does this student do? What is this student's value add? How are they using their skills and their strengths to both grow as a person and give back to this organization? So by asking the students, how do you add value? What do you specifically do? What are you most proud of? When you think about this activity, what are you most proud of doing? And I love the answers I get to that question, because I get all kinds of crazy things that I never would have expected. Some of them really big, and some of them might seem like a really small piece. It's not like, oh, I'm proud because I'm the one who helped my team win this championship. Sometimes it's that, but sometimes it's, I'm really proud that I'm the one who, after the events are over, I make sure to go around the school and take down all of the old flyers when the event's date has passed, because I want to make sure that what we have up is current, right? That's a significant value add. I greatly appreciate that, right? I also go around and randomly take things down if I see something that's posted that's 6 months out of date, right? So I think things like that are also significant. That's showing responsibility. That's also showing a little bit about the student's personality and character. Another way I'll approach this is I'll ask a student, what do you do that no one else can do in this group? What's something that you do that either no one else can do or just no one else happens to do? And sometimes that's when I'll hear about taking the flyers down, or I'll hear, well, I always get there early to set up the chairs because once everybody comes in, it's a little chaotic. Or I am the one who takes notes because I realized no one was taking notes, and then we would forget what happened the week prior, right? Those types of things, what you're most proud of, or how do you add value? What do you do that no one else does? That helps the students, even from a very early on age, those young freshmen, start to see that they have strengths in ways that aren't being shown by other people. And they have something that they can be proud of. They have something that they can attach to. They can start to see a way that they're contributing to a community in their own unique way. And that's what we're going for. So it's less about what does this whole group do? We all, did a park cleanup. Okay, what did you specifically do? That's what we want to focus on. The next piece that we want to think about, and I come back to this time and time again, if you remember nothing else from this Facebook Live tonight, please remember these two words: authenticity and initiative. These are the two words that when we are looking at a student's resume and we're looking at the student's college application, we're coming back to these two words time and time and time again: authenticity and initiative. Authenticity comes first. Why is the student involved in this activity in the first place? Are they doing this because they think it looks good? Are they doing this because they actually really enjoy this activity? How does this activity connect to the student's interest? How does it connect to their values? How does it connect to their goals? What does this activity and being involved in this activity show about the student? So every activity that a student is doing should be authentic to that student. And sometimes I'll have conversations with students and they'll say, well, I've been playing soccer since I was 4 and now I'm 15 and I feel like I should keep doing it because I've been doing it for a long time, but I don't really love it and it takes up a lot of my time, and I don't really have time to do the robotics activities, which is really what I love, but it conflicts with soccer, but I should keep doing soccer because I've been doing it for a long time. And I would say, well, let's have a conversation about that, right? Maybe you should keep doing soccer if you love soccer and it's meaningful to you and you love the camaraderie and the team activity of it and the athletic side of it. It gets you moving physically. Maybe that's good for your mental health. There's a lot of reasons that you should be continuing soccer. But if your true love has become robotics and you'd really prefer to be spending more time getting more deeply involved with robotics, and you want to go to college for some type of engineering, for example, then maybe it's okay to pivot. It's not a quit, it's a pivot. It is, this activity was authentic to me for years, but now my interests have changed. I only have but so much time. I'm taking all these challenging classes. I need to keep myself balanced. Maybe I need to pivot to something that's authentic for who I am now. That is okay. But we just want to make sure that we're pivoting to something new and not just quitting things, of course. So really, what is authentic to your student? What does it mean to them? How does it connect with their goals? The second side of this, and this is really where the magic starts to happen, is the initiative side of things. So I ask the students all the time this, like, how are you, let's think about the communities that you're a part of. You are a part of your school community. You are a part of your athletic team community. You're part of your family community. You're part of the town of X. You are part of your church community, right? These are the groups that you walk in. Think about the groups that you live in, the communities that you benefit from being a part of. How are you giving back to each of those communities? You're benefiting from them. What are you giving to them? How are you using your strengths to make those communities stronger or to benefit the other people that are in them? That's incredibly important because, again, when colleges are reviewing students' applications and they've got the quantitative data, okay, the grades look good, we can move to the next round of review. Now we're looking at the qualitative data. What kind of student is this person? Who are they going to be in our community? We, as a college, offer so much. How are they going to make use of what we offer? And how are they going to strengthen our community by being a part of it? That initiative piece and your student showing initiative is showing that they want to be a part of a community and they're going to give back. It also demonstrates other things like creativity, intellectual curiosity, right? All of these things that we know that colleges are looking for. By taking initiative to get more involved with activities that are authentic and meaningful to your student is showing, again, who they are, what kind of person they will be. If a student is on their application and they're saying, I'm really passionate about psychology and I really know that I want to major in psychology and I'm really interested with psychology, which is a field that is a science, it's a social science. There's definitely one side of it that's a lot of research and statistics and data, right? And then there's another side of it that's much more empathy and people focused. If your student has not, or if students you are here, if you, a student, has not done any activity in any way, shape, or form that either shows developing empathy or something that's showing the more, science side of your brain, then that authenticity piece is kind of questioned. They're saying they're interested in psychology, but like, are they really? And because the initiative is lacking, you're saying you're passionate about this, but outside of taking AP psychology, I see nothing else about this on your application, right? So how do we fix this? How do we fix this hole? right, on the resume. That's when we look at, okay, what is it about psychology that you love? And now let's try to find some activities that intentionally align with that. For students who are really drawn to the scientific research side, let's look for opportunities for research. There are summer programs that students can do. There might be some sort of project they could work with a teacher on, right? How can we expand that side? For students who are more on the people side of things, right? There are opportunities to volunteer with the elderly, with children, with individuals who have developmental disabilities. All of those types of activities would involve empathy and developing people skills, right? So that is what we're looking for in taking that initiative. Sometimes taking initiative can be doing a completely what we would call homegrown activity. So maybe there's something your student really wants to do, but they're just kind of limited in their resources, either financially or just they don't have a car, they can't get out of their house, without you driving them, and you have to work this summer, so we've had students who've done some pretty crazy things. I had a student during COVID who developed a really strong passion for eco consciousness and sustainability, and had been doing all of this research. And then she took AP Earth and Environmental Science, and just really was taking a deep dive, ended up going to college. Now she's majoring in that field. But during COVID, she was kind of stuck at home, couldn't really do much, and decided that she was going to get her family composting, and looked up plans on YouTube and built a compost bin, had her parents take her to Home Depot and built a compost bin, and got her family on board with composting, and then turned the compost into a garden. And it was a whole thing, right? That's some pretty serious initiative, and also very authentic, and not an activity that involves signing up for a club or paying a lot of money to do some very expensive summer camp, right? This was something that she did. And we have so many other examples of these kinds of things. Another one of my colleagues had a student who wanted to do research, and she worked with a professor as a mentor, and she ordered all of the pieces that she needed. And she did this whole research project kind of at her home. That's a whole nother story, but that we can talk about with summer activities when we do that Facebook Live. But it doesn't have to be this big name activity. It can sometimes the greatest show of initiative is something that a student is choosing to do because they're really passionate about it, and because it is so authentic to them, they want to take that initiative. The other thing that applies to initiative is deepening the involvement over time. So again, if we go back to that 9th grade resume and we put down, okay, they joined Key Club. Let's say I'll use that as an example, right? Maybe in 9th grade, they're a Key Club member, and they really love Key Club, and they have such a passion for volunteering. And they also have great organization skills. So then maybe by sophomore year, they become a team lead. They kind of lead this one activity, and they get people to sign up, and they're the liaison for this one organization who needs volunteers regularly, like Habitat for Humanity or a food bank, right? And then by junior year, now they've kind of got some new skills, and they're a little bit older, and now they're, the point person for this one food bank, but now they're also in charge of recruiting more freshmen to join Key Club, right? So each year we're getting a little bit more in depth in the way that the student is involved, again, attached to their strengths and using what they're really good at. So by the time we get to senior year, we've got Key Club on that resume all 4 years, but it doesn't just say Key Club member volunteered at these activities. It's member, and then, liaison, and then co-chair, and, maybe secretary or something, right, for the officer position. So it's showing that growth over time. That's also showing initiative, not just being satisfied with showing up and being a member and leaving, but wanting to go a little bit more in depth with that activity. So these are the things that are going to make a student's application stand out. It's not just about the name of the activity that the student does, the name of the club, the name of the organization they volunteered with. That's not it, right? It's about what is the student doing with that opportunity, and how are they contributing? Keep in mind, no one stands out ever by just checking a box. That's probably the opposite way of trying to stand out, is if you just check a box. And so many times students, might be approaching activities as a box checking activity. So, okay, Gina says I need to join a club. So I joined such and such club, and I went to 3 meetings. Okay, so I joined the club. Box check. Okay, great. So we have something to write on your resume. So it's not blank, great, but how is this helping you grow, right? So if students are constantly doing the low-hanging fruit, the easy to join clubs that don't require much of them, those activities are not going to strengthen the student's application because those activities are not going to strengthen the student's character. If we want the student to have a stronger application, then we need the student to choose activities intentionally that's helping them grow so that it's developing their skills and helping them get exposed to something new that might spark their interest or grow in a way personally, academically, socially. Sometimes students say, well, I just don't even know what to do. So they're just kind of stuck and they're doing nothing because they're frozen by that. I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to stay where I am. I completely understand and identify with that. And so my response to that is take action. Pick something. Volunteer somewhere. You may like it, you may not. There may be an aspect of it that you like. That's great. And then we can build off of that for something else. But we don't know what you're going to be interested in if you just never try anything. Growth requires us to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? We don't get better at things and we don't grow as a person if we don't put ourselves in situations that help make us a little bit uncomfortable. And so I know that joining a club or volunteering or applying for a part-time job or trying out for a sports team, that requires an incredible amount of vulnerability and risk. And for some students, that's a lot harder than it is for others. And I fully respect that. However, college is going to require a whole lot of vulnerability and risk, right? The application process, and then just getting dropped off somewhere and your parents are driving away and you're on your own, right? That's probably one of the most vulnerable times that a student will feel in their young life. So if we're pushing them now, it's helping them develop those skills so that their applications will be stronger and then ultimately they'll be better prepared for what's coming in this short future. I will say when it comes to highly selective colleges, we need to then raise the bar even a little bit higher. So I get this question a lot, how does this apply? This is okay. This is great for in general, but I'm really looking at the really highly selective colleges that, have a 3% admit rate or a 10% acceptance rate of applicants. Just like we would anticipate that the quantitative data has to be higher for students to even make it through that first round of reviews, the qualitative information for the student also needs to be at that extra high level. So often what that means in order for a student to stand out in terms of their activities is those highly selective schools are looking for the student to take their value add outside of the club classroom walls and often outside of the walls of the school. They want to see students who are taking initiative in authentic activities that are having an impact on a broader scale. So more than just being the president of a club within their school. What is your value add? How are you contributing to your community in an even broader way within your town, within your county, within your state, within your country? Make it bigger. And that makes sense, right? If you're thinking about these schools where they're admitting 3% of their applicants, these are not going to be schools where they're not going to be students who settle for good enough, right? These are going to be schools full of students who want to keep pushing themselves, who want to keep doing something more and bigger. And how can I use my strengths? And how can I keep taking that initiative? That's the campus culture of these types of schools. And so that's the type of energy that the colleges will be looking for in the students' activities. So really the bottom line is that the 9th grade resume all the way through high school resume planning is really just like everything else we talk about with the college application process. It is important to be intentional. It is important to choose activities that are meaningful, just like and play to students' strengths, but will help them grow, just like it's important to be intentional about the classes that your student is choosing. So if you joined me last time with my colleague, Lindsay, we were talking about course selection and making sure that we're choosing rigor that's appropriate for the student. We want to push them, but not so much that they're just not able to be successful. We need to use that same strategy with activity list. So push, be a little bit uncomfortable, grow, right? Choose things that are meaningful. We want students, just like we want them to be developing their academic skills, 9th through 12th grade, we want them to be identifying their career skills, their academic skills, their personal skills. We also want to make sure that, just like on the transcript, we're keeping track of what is happening as we go along so that course corrections can be made. But in the end, it's going to make our life a lot easier when it comes time to complete that activity list or submit resumes to college, because we've been planning for this and we knew that it was coming. All right, so I know we've got lots of people here. Oh, great. I'm just looking through lots of juniors. Awesome. 10th graders, great. So yeah, so if you have any questions, definitely go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. While you're working on that, I will let you know that I'm going to be back here on April 16th. So Sunday, April 16th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be talking about summer plans. So I wanted to talk about the resume today to get it on your radar that we need to be thinking about a resume. But then obviously the next step is, okay, summer is coming. We're at the end of March. What are your students' plans for this summer, in addition to relaxing and having fun with their friends and maybe taking a family vacation or spending family time? All of that is critically important. But we also want to make sure that we're using that time off as a way to help your student continue to grow as a person and in relation to whatever their future goals are. So we'll talk about summer plans next time on the 16th. Awesome. Great. So if you found this helpful, then you'll find a lot of other really helpful information over on our website. So advcp.com. You will find short videos from me. You'll find a fantastic blog and also our most recent episodes of our podcast. So if you haven't checked that out and you want to have some more questions or just love college application information like I do, you can go over there and read that. And then I also hop on Facebook Live as well about every other week, every couple weeks, with topics that are relevant to what's happening at this time frame in the admission cycle. If you have any other specific questions, you can also contact us through our website. And if you'd ever like to schedule a consultation to talk with us one-on-one about how we can help support your student in the process, you can schedule that through our website as well. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I can't wait to start hearing about your students' resumes when we meet in a couple weeks on the 16th. Have a great night. Bye.